Hello, Beena. You muted, Beena.
Hello, and good morning, and welcome to the Moreness-Culture. Good
Yeah.
morning, Syl.
Yes.
Good
Good
morning,
morning.
Spring,
Good
and good morning,
morning. Good
Eddie.
morning. Wonderful, Beena. I'm happy to be here,
Yes,
Beena.
and good morning
Happy
to
to
everyone.
be here.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, so whoever is watching us live and will watch us recorded, welcome to the Moreness-Culture. We
Yeah.
do welcome each and every single day with open heart, with open mind, because it's an open space we have created and we are trying to create and maintain it every single day.
Yes.
This is the intent of this doing
Yes.
this lives every single day. We are doing that,
Yeah.
and one of the other intent or this secondary intent, we can say that, is about sharing the moreness we are acquiring from our reading projects. And
Yeah.
nowadays we are reading Miyamoto Musashi, and it's a very different kind of experience for me because so far Miyamoto Musashi is so much uh, invested in just one idea of fighting a battle.
Yeah. Superiority.
He's
Yeah.
very clear in his intent.
Correct.
Also, yes, but yeah, of course in the superiority, but also in the
Oh,
survival, which
oh
of
yeah.
course nobody wants to admit that
Oh yeah.
because it's a big deal. But even the people with superiority mindset, actually, they are trying to survive and
Correct.
they feel threatened. And
Yeah.
this is something what Miyamoto Musashi is inadvertently projecting, that how to survive in this world. Because for them, the world is a battlefield. And of course, if I try to abstract it, he is trying to share, okay, telling us the survival mechanisms, survival
Yeah.
techniques.
Yeah.
And the best technique to survive, according to the primitive mindset, is to attack. And this is what
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
he is
Yeah. Yeah.
sharing.
And we need to
The
evolve from that primitive mindset.
Exactly, exactly. So our reading of Miyamoto Musashi's Book of Five Ring is not to learn exactly what he is trying to share, but try to learn what he is not saying, but sharing inadvertently.
Exactly.
This
And
is the
and
crux
and
of
if we
our reading.
if we yes. Oh, sorry, Bina. I was going to say, if
No,
we
no.
apply capital H hearing to Musashi, we hear him understand that his goal, his pursuit, he's got that. We can feel that he feels it's flawed. He's looking for
Yeah.
more, but he doesn't know what it is. He's achieved the pinnacle, but he's finding it a bit hollow.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. Exactly.
He's achieved that
Exactly.
victory. He's the man. He's undefeated. He's the greatest duelist, or at least in his time. I think after him there came others who had won more duels. I forget the name starts with a K, but at least in
Mhm.
his time he was the man. He was the it. He was the pinnacle. Yes, and yet it
Mm.
was a bit hollow, right? And so when we look at this in the reading, it comes through and you see it. It's very powerful. It's very powerful. This is capital. That's what capital R reading. It's connected to capital H hearing, which is to perceive. It really should be called capital H, capital P perceiving, because we are perceiving beyond what's said. Yeah, it's a skill.
Yes.
It's a skill. It's an absolute skill. Yes, it may be criticized. You say, yeah, but you're interpreting. You can't be sure. But you know what? If you do this regularly as a practice and you develop it as a skill, yeah, then you can extrapolate it to situations like this. Why do I trust it? Yes, I know I might be wrong, might be, but there is a high probability that I'm not. Why? Because when I've done this in the past to test it, to at least make such assessments, I've then gone and checked to see if my assessments are accurate. Yes. And
Yes.
when I'm dealing with people that are still alive, in other words, right? And I can do this and I can get feedback, right? So I check, and so I don't ever like to take such extrapolations, such discernments. Um, yes, they come and I have them, but I always try and check them to build my skill, because I don't want it to be founded on a hollowness, just on assumption. right? And it took me a long time to really trust those. But now I've done it so long, all my life, and I've checked it so much. I do trust. I do trust that Musashi, and I think he may say it later on. I don't remember. It's been decades since I read Musashi, but it always stuck with me. This understanding, this awareness that yes, he got to that pinnacle and found it hollow. And it's midlife crisis, and he's writing this in midlife, correct? So there's that too. We see this as something that even if we don't see it in Musashi necessarily, we see it
Mm,
in like CEOs, right? Very successful people, movie star, whatever. Midlife crisis is when the typicalness of it, where you have achieved what you wanted to achieve. And all your life, your ambitions, you fulfilled your ambitions, and now you find them hollow. So now you're looking for something else to fill that hole. Yeah? Sports cars and whatever, they won't do it, but that's the belief that it will. So it's a cliche. But of course, not everybody tries to resolve their midlife crisis by buying a sports car. Yeah, I mean, they go on retreats and go and do courses and programs and all sorts of stuff, right? They're looking for that moreness. So it's again just from a simple probability point of view. You got Musashi, successful midlife crisis. He's doing the art and the poetry and all of this stuff, right? It all fits together. It may not be accurate, right? We don't want to stereotype people either, but the likelihood of it is pretty high. A lot of supporting evidence. A lot of supporting evidence. It doesn't matter if it is accurate or not. What matters is the understanding and the awareness that even if it doesn't apply to Musashi, it might still apply to others. Yes. And it
mm.
may apply to us. And thus it is useful. Very, very useful. Yes. Make sense?
Absolutely, it does make sense, and this is why I love Way of Impeccability, because Way
Yes.
of Impeccability, at least so far, my understanding, that it never negates anything. Never. They
Correct.
acknowledge them, they
Correct.
embrace it,
Correct.
and then they of course the idea is to be
Yeah.
appropriate with
Yeah.
all those things, like even the primitive mindset, or having ego, and
Yeah.
what the survival. It is not about that, okay, we
No.
are just going to say that, okay, no, you need to become a saint or just get rid of everything. No, just be appropriate and see that how things are working in this context now. This is very important, and this is so crucial, and this is what it makes what makes Way of Impeccability really far ahead of anything so far I have been encountered.
Oh yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
and that's why I really truly respect that. So in again, Miyamoto Musashi, what he is sharing, he's giving a lot, even though he's not talking about Japanese culture, history, and their political system, their financial system, but just by sharing the way he is sharing and what he's sharing, it tells you a lot. You don't need to read history books about Japan at that time to understand what was going on. Just read this and you will see that, okay, how the culture and the mindset was working at the time. And this is really truly amazing for me. That inadvertent sharings and and in an indirect way sharings reveals a lot, and it applies to everyone. When we are when we are at ease, when we are not on guard, when we are not acting, when we are not pretending, we share a lot. When we don't feel threatened, we share a lot. When we feel that we are safe here, we share a lot. And that sharing, of course, it gives us much more clarity than any other deliberately trying to focus on something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gives us clue of how my mindset is working. It gives us
Yeah.
clue about our intents, our
Yeah.
motivations, our aspirations, our ambitions. And this is where we learn about ourselves. This is what
Yeah.
self-awareness is. When you are not on guard, people do pretend, of course, I'm not excluding myself, people do pretend things
Exactly.
about themselves, that, okay, I have been doing this, I am the noble one, I am this and I'm this and blah blah blah. But when we are not on guard, pay attention to their jokes, pay attention to their spare time sharings, pay attention to what they, of course, take interest in. Of course, it will tell us. And
Yeah,
same applies to us.
yeah, yeah.
When I'm not on guard, when I'm not pretending anything, when I'm feeling safe in my share with my sharing with in anyone's company, this is who really I am. If you want to know about yourself, try to pay attention in those timings. Like right now, when Miyamoto Musashi was not hired by government at the time, or any, I don't know the word, any feudal lord at the time, when he was
Daimyo.
writing,
Daimyo is the word for
yes,
feudal lord. Daimyo.
yes, daimyo. He because he was not writing a book about history. He was just sharing his own thing, but it reveals a lot about the Japanese culture at the time
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
era, and the political system and other things, how much insecure they were feeling, that how the survival was really difficult. This is the, again, benefits of capital R reading.
Yeah,
So, okay,
yeah.
sir,
Very
please.
powerful. Very powerful. Yes, yes. Wonderful stuff. Brilliant. Let's get going. Let's get going. We're starting the fire book today. We're starting the fire book. Yeah, which is book 3, right, of the book of 5 rings. So this is ring 3. Brilliant. Brilliant. All right. Go ahead, Beena. By the way,
Yes.
uh, yes, the picture just happens to coincide where I'm sitting, and it makes me look like I've got long hair. But if I understand it correctly, and I stand under correction here, right? Musashi had long, wild hair like this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, I didn't always necessarily wear it like that because, of course, you've got samurai, you got to wear the top knot. And again, that top knot, by the way, it's a requirement. You have to wear it.
Hmm.
Yeah. And you see in some of the movies, if you watch samurai movies, and there's a whole genre of samurai movies, and especially the ones that were made like in the 70s and 80s, around that era, right? They
Hmm.
they really made an effort to try and be, even though they were very fantastical, they tried to really be very accurate, and they really portray the samurai culture and a lot of stuff. So even though it's yes, it might be a wild story, but you learn a lot at the same time, right? In some of them, where the hero defeats this bad samurai, cuts off his top knot to humiliate him and shame him, right? And it's like one of the worst things you can do to them, right? To the samurai. So you get to understand through the stories, you get to understand a lot about the culture if you learn to look, and you're paying attention, you're watching with discernment, right? It's a big deal. In other words, the top knot is a big deal because it's part of your status, part of who you are, part of your pride and all of this, right? But I do understand that Musashi sometimes, at least in some certain cases, he had this wildness to him. He was kind of a wild guy, especially in his youth. And I think he was criticized for his unkemptness, and it may be even before he was a samurai, because he was adopted into by a daimyo. Yeah, so it didn't come there automatically, and I think he had a bit of, like the bastard children in medieval times, right? The king has a bastard son, and those bastard sons, especially if the king doesn't have legitimate heirs, right? His legitimate wife is barren, and yes, he has a son by his mistress, and sometimes those bastard sons got to inherit because, well, something is better than nothing, but they still had stigma in terms of being a bastard. So I think Musashi faced a similar situation, but I think this wildness of his was also a kind of rebellious statement against the situation, especially when he was young. So again, I'm standing under correction, but I do believe that he had hair like this. Yeah, at least when he was younger and let it loose and wild man. All right, will you read, please, Beena? Will you read, please?
Okay.
I'm just going to scroll for you, but the fire book, right? Okay, I
Okay.
guess you don't
The
need.
fire
Yeah.
book. In the fire book of the Nito Ichi School of Strategy, I describe fighting as fire. In the first place, people think narrowly about the benefit of strategy. By using only their fingertips, they only know the benefit of 3 of the 5 inches of the wrist. They let a contest be decided, as with the folding fan, merely by the span of their forearms. They specialize in the small matter of dexterity. Dexterity. Okay. Learning such trifles as hand and leg movements with the bamboo practice sword. In my strategy, the
Yeah,
main
which is called the Shanai, by the way. 1 second,
okay.
Beena. I want to just elaborate on this. Right.
Yes.
Well, just I remember some of these terms because I used to sell these
Yes.
things
Yes.
in when I had the store. So Shanai,
Yes.
and in especially martial artists, any Western martial artist will know what a boken is, which is the wooden katana that they practice with, and they may even know what a Shanai is because the Shanai they use in kendo. Right? And it's those bamboo swords they fight with. They make a hell of a racket, by the way. When I lived in the dojo as a full-time student, uh, we were on the same floor, and as the kendo hall, right? Our rooms, they walked right by us to get there. And forget about sleeping when they're making a noise like that. It's an incredible racket they make. It's quite anyway. And then they would all have a big party and drink afterwards. So they really affected the sleep quite well. They were right next door to us, just right there. Anyhow,
Hmm.
a little bit of by the by side story. It's hard to imagine how much noise that makes until you actually hear it. And of course, it's a wooden
Wow.
floor for the kendo. The kendo practice all, and same with karate is on a wooden floor, whereas the Aikido, because I was in yes for Aikido the student, but I lived in the Japanese Cultural Center in Chicago,
Hmm.
right? Yeah, very, 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 very cool that they did because they didn't only do kendo, they did the flower arranging and the tea ceremony and language and all sorts of stuff, right? Because
Hmm.
to speak Japanese, by the way, I used to really amuse me where with like I would hear the teacher instructing, obviously, Americans, right, in Chicago, and they struggled with the one essential thing that she kept trying to understand him to speak Japanese, especially as a male, to have
Hmm.
macho. You have to have macho in your expression.
Hmm.
Macho. Yes, yes. Very key to speak Japanese properly is to have that pronunciation to get it right. And she would struggle to get with this because well, if they're trying to learn Japanese and macho wasn't natural to them, right? It wasn't there. Now, yeah, of course, the macho is something in America too, but not in part of your speaking. Yes, even macho guys don't always speak macholy because it makes you look a bit ridiculous. But in Japanese, actual pronunciation was critical. And she tried to emphasize this. It's really interesting. All right. So just by the way, but I want to comment on this first paragraph. Right. To understand what the mindset that Musashi is dealing with. Yes. In terms of this, you have students of the sword, martial arts, but really their mindset is bureaucratic. And I see
Oh.
this in corporate. Yes, I mean I am somebody I know very well, who I interacted with for a long time, who was a personal assistant, had exactly the same mindset. They never they wanted to know the exact solution for the specifics of the problem of that particular time. I always
Hmm.
try to share abstract understandings that you can take this and apply it and you'll solve this problem today and tomorrow. And no, they wanted the specific solution. That's bureaucratic mindset. They want that precise. Yes, this is in, subparagraph 23, rule 2, paragraph B, rule X, Y. Detail, right? That's bureaucracy. They want the preciseness. So as a result, it makes them, of course, extremely limited. So their thinking is in swords, well, I've got to do this technique, and then I've got it. No, that doesn't help you. But they can't get past this desire for the exact preciseness. And it's that one step thinking. Yes. Yeah,
Mm.
it will work in when the circumstances allow it, but you need to have this flexibility and fluidity because that's what fights are. They are fluid and dynamic, not just fights, but business, anything, even if you want to really be a good bureaucrat, you need to be fluid, right? And as you go up the chain, you see this. Right? I had it not so long ago where I don't know if you remember this, Beena, when I was up in Utah after I bought the motorhome, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
was at the DMV there for whatever,
Mm.
just with the permit and the buying it, whatever. There was some
Yes.
complication, that
Yes.
well, I had to get the insurance for the registration first,
Yes.
but I'm going to be down here in Arizona, not up there. Anyway, so the bureaucrat at the window on the drive-through where I got it asked a question, and my honesty, I should have. Well, I said asked the question honestly, knowing it was likely to cause a problem. I could have just said yes, and that would have been the end of it, and I would have had a problem. Anyway, but then, well, now I have to go and speak to the supervisor. And I explained the problem to the supervisor. And I said, well, there's just, if I don't get this way, I'm going to be stuck here. If you don't make this exception, allow me to go down and get it in Arizona. So technically, the regulation said no. He said, oh, well, okay. He broke the rules, in other words, for me. And I've seen this
Yes.
before with when I had the restaurant and I had to go and fix up, things from that were a mess from the people who had it before me. Same thing. They bent the rules to satisfy this, right? Again, well, just ignored them entirely, just threw them out the window, yeah? For expediency's sake. Not that it benefited me necessarily, but benefited them. So my point is that even bureaucrats, at least not the ones that stand at the window, they follow the rules, or at least, the ones that give you a hard time do. There are some who just aren't good employees and they just don't care, whatever, you know. And it's a good tip, by the way. If you don't succeed in your whatever you need from a bureaucracy because somebody's being a real stickler on the rules, just go to another window. Just try again until you find one that does. Support, same thing. You get people that are like really, any kind of technical support. Some of them, others were like, yeah, okay. And I've had them be incredibly helpful because they didn't care about the rules, right? So very useful to know, by the way. And bureaucrats, in other words, aren't always bureaucratic. It's only those who really get into it and stick to it. But this is the mindset, though, that he's dealing with because the society, right, samurai society, is in its own way very, very bureaucratic. Like the top knot thing, like I said, you have to wear the two swords. You have to have. There's all these have to rules. Right? It's a proscribed culture. Your way of being is proscribed. Yes. So this is what I want to make a point here, right? Thinking narrowly. I mean, this is classic cliche with bureaucrats that they are narrow-minded, right? Narrow thinkers. But this is what he's saying here, right? So very, very important just to be aware, and we can learn from this, right? That you see it how even when it's a matter of life and death, and that's where Musashi, his focus on actual sword fighting is valuable because it makes us realize that, oh, okay, I see what you're saying about being narrow-minded, but so what? Yeah, but when it comes to life and death issues, that narrow-minded sticks and those people die. Correct? So it's a big deal. Very big deal. Make sense, Beena?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Please
Uh,
continue, Beena.
okay. I thought that you are going to add more, so that's why I was waiting.
Sure.
In this, the fire book of the Nito Ichi school of strategy, I describe fighting as fire. In the first place, people think narrowly about the benefit of strategy by using only their fingertip. Then they only know the benefit of 3 of the 5 inches of the wrist. They let a contest be decided, as with the folding fan, merely by the span of their forearms. They specialize in the small matter of dexterity, learning such trifles as hand and leg movements with the bamboo practice sword. In my strategy, the training for killing enemies is by way of many contests, fighting for survival. Wow, survival. Discovering the meaning of life and death, learning the way of
Exactly.
the soul, judging the strength of attacks, and understanding the way of the edge and ridge of the soul. You cannot profit from small techniques, particularly when full armor is worn. My way of strategy is the sure method to win when fighting for your life, one man against 5 or 10. There is nothing wrong with the principle. One man can be 10, so 1,000 men can be 10,000. You must. You need
Yeah,
to
you
scroll
must, you
some.
must, sorry, I was reading the notes there. You must, yeah.
Okay. You must research this. Of course, you cannot assemble 1,000 or 10,000 men for everyday training, but you can become a master of strategy by training alone with a sword, so that you can understand the enemy's stratagem, stratagems. Okay. His
Yeah.
strength and resources, and come to appreciate how to apply strategy to beat 10,000 enemies. Any man who wants to master the essence of my strategy must research diligently, training more morning and evening. Thus can he polish his skill, become free from self, and realize extraordinary ability. He will come to possess miraculous power. This is the practical result of his strategy.
Yes, or at
Depending
least
on
what seems like miraculous power. Correct. Right. So
yes,
here we come to, I'll put this in the heading for today, right?
yes,
Depending on the place. Now, I said, in the abstract, it is contextual awareness. Now,
yes,
contextual is more than just environmental awareness. Yes,
yes,
it's more than that. So that's why we go further. Now, in gaming, for instance, right? Especially where you're doing group gaming, a lot of gaming you just play on your own, right? Okay, like first-person shooters, which is very well known in gaming. But games, there are other games like MMOs, which is massively multiplayer online. You're playing with other people. And a big part of that is doing group activities. And some of them are very, very challenging to do. I mean, I remember in World of Warcraft, right? Which for a long time was the big elephant in the room. I mean, they had 10, 11, 12 million subscribers. And the second one at the time, now it's different today, but at that time, the second biggest game only had maybe 200,000, right? So
mm,
subscribers per month. So huge difference. And over the years, I looked it up. 100 million people have at least had some contact with World of Warcraft. So it's something that people know as a game. And in World of Warcraft, you're doing raids and dungeons and whatever, and group activity. And some of those, I mean, the guild I was in, we took months to, and we never even got to the end, just to go to the next stage and the next level. You have to really be precise. But the big deal is situational awareness. Now, you can look this up. Don't stand in the fire. Okay, it's a
mm,
cliche. It's a cliche from the game, right? And why? Because this what would happen. You in there, you're fighting, you got this big boss, which is a great big monster that you're fighting and dealing with it, very powerful, and all sorts of stuff is going on, and you want to attack, and you focus so much on your attacking and defending that you forgot to look at the fire, which is literally on the ground, and you're standing and it's burning you. Now there are healers that will heal you, but a lot of times the healers just say, nope, you need to learn to not stand in the fire. I don't have resources to be curing the stupidity. All you need to do is move a little bit to the side, right? You can Google it. This is a it is there's going to be that's the magic of World of Warcraft, because it was such a big game and it's been going for so long that anything you want to know about it, there's dozens and there's huge articles about it, websites devoted to it. It's fantastic, right? But this standing in the fire and the lack of situational awareness, and that's what they call it, situational awareness. It's also something you'll hear in the military, right? Pilots need to have situational awareness. Any SEALs, anytime you're in the, and you might even just be a regular infantryman, they're going to tell you situational awareness. Don't get tunnel vision, right? And you'll hear this over and over. So when we go into a raid, the raid leader will say specifically, or maybe take somebody aside, say, hey, you're getting tunnel vision, you're getting tunnel vision. It makes you ineffective as a player, right? And there was one of the questions in Ask Biella is, do the MMOs have real world value? Absolutely. Because in this kind of a situation, you're learning to not have tunnel vision and you're learning to have situational awareness. Most of the time when people go into a meeting in a business situation, right? Typical business meeting, they end up with tunnel vision. Why? Because they're feeling the stress. There's adrenaline, pressure, etc. They get tunnel vision and they lose. I was watching on one of the news channels, right? On the court case that Trump is in right now. And one of the lawyers was saying, they commenting, they dissecting and analyzing it. He was commenting on the defense lawyer's ability, his skills. And he said, yeah, when you're in it, you get involved. He didn't say tunnel vision, but he said you kind of lose it a little bit and you get too excited and too eager, whatever. And then you miss some options. He should have said you get tunnel vision, right? So what this all comes down to now, right? Examine the environment depending on the place, contextual awareness. It is a incredibly potent skill. Yes. And when we're dealing with it in our personal issue, yeah, personal, say, yeah, but I'm not involved in war and battle, and I'm not in, when I play World of Warcraft, I just go out and harvest things, and I don't get it. Yeah, where does it apply? Relationships. How many first dates were ruined because of tunnel vision and lack of contextual awareness? Yeah. I mean, if
Yes.
you've ever observed this, yes, and you see people meeting somebody they like, right? We've all seen this in our youth. Boy meets girl, girl meets boy, and they like them and they get together. And you can see that tunnel vision coming into them, and they say stupid things and do stupid things, even though they don't mean to, right? Because they're overwhelmed and they're feeling the stress and the pressure, and they get tunnel vision. So they get disconnected from what they're saying and doing. Yes, you've seen this, Beena?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So my point is, right, when we take this and we look at where's the use and the value, which is, of course, prime in way of impeccability. Whether things are true or not, we get usefulness and value. Whether they apply to us or not, we get usefulness and value. Why? Because we learn to think conceptually. So when we realize the same skill that he's talking about, not only of looking at the bigger picture, overview awareness, right? Don't be narrow like the bureaucrat, but also to develop contextual awareness. Don't have situational awareness. But contextual awareness takes situational awareness and goes one step further, goes all the way, right? Because the greater context of your life is what we're looking at way of impeccability. Not only to be successful in the raid or, on playing your game or in your relationship or in a fight, right? Like Musashi, but in your life, right? You don't want to have tunnel vision when it comes to dealing with death, for instance. Yeah.
Mm.
When it comes to your spirituality, you want to see that what am I doing now? Is it appropriate in the context of my entire life? My spirit, my soul, my well-being, my honor, my integrity, my goodness, etc. All of it must all be appropriate. Yes. So this all relates when we look at this bigger picture. It's very profound. Yes. Make a big difference. Make sense?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yeah. In other words, I'm really making the point here now. Okay, so we got a whole bunch more joining us on Dushka joined, Lubna joined, Davy. I'm assuming that's it, or David. I'm not sure where
Devya.
you cut the name.
Devya Das. Devya Das.
Davy Adas. Okay, so Davy Adas. All right, brilliant, brilliant. Now, I wasn't
I'm
sure
just guessing.
where the cutoff was, right, between names,
Yes. I
but
guess. Or Devi Das. I'm not very sure because it
it
is
could be
written.
either way. Yeah. Anyway, so
Yes.
we're glad you're here. We're glad you're here. And please comment, please comment, please comment. We love
Okay,
those comments.
just for new people who are joining us on Instagram, we are doing the capital R reading of Book of Five Ring by Miyamoto Musashi.
Correctly.
And by capital R reading, I mean that we are not just going to read and share the story, but we are going into the depth of it first to
No,
understand,
no.
why and how they are sharing. And of course, Syl is going to provide us the context because he has been aware of
Correct. Correct.
the Japanese culture at that time. This book
Yeah.
is so influential and is still having an influence on
Oh, huge, huge.
Japanese Japanese culture and especially business community there.
Correct.
It's a big deal there. CEOs
It's
and people in positions.
influential in a profound way.
Yes, yes. So
If you
that's
go
why
and
we are doing capital
basically,
R
if you
reading.
want to get anywhere in Japanese corporate culture, you need to read and know and understand Musashi. It's a
Yes.
requirement. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and capital R reading also involved like repeat backs and takeaways, which is a big deal in Way of Impeccability. Way of
Exactly.
Impeccability
Exactly.
and Moreness-Project are the programs, life change programs by Syl Sabastian, who is actually sharing this book here. But coming back to the capital R reading, it might
Yeah.
be okay a bit uncomfortable for new viewers who are joining us, that we get distracted, we just follow the other beats and going into the different
Yeah.
direction. But just have a trust that it is always a central
Right.
column
Right.
here.
Right.
Whatever
Right.
we are
Right.
sharing, it is pertinent and relevant, and it
Right.
has a meaning and purpose to that. So be
Exactly.
patient and enjoy that.
Yeah, and the intent is awareness. Yes, even
Exactly.
sometimes I'll tell a little story or use an example, and it may seem like I'm going sideways, but I'm raising the point because it adds awareness of the bigger point that's being made. And we are reading Musashi specifically not only to hear what he says. I'm not interested in sword fighting. Right? He's very clear. It's about sword fighting, cutting your enemy, very clear. But when we look at the bigger abstract of it, we find value, right? So that's why it's a big deal in business, because that if you have this understanding that there's more to be gained from it than what Musashi says, that's a big deal, right? So this capital R reading is to look for that moreness, which is enhanced awareness, right? What it's all about, right? Our whole way of
Yes.
impeccability, Moreness-Project, always about enhancing and developing awareness. From a way of impeccability and a Moreness-Culture point of view, Nobelia-Culture, this is the meaning and purpose of life. It's what the universe is all about. And it'll go even further to say that enhancing and developing awareness, or however you want to use words to say that, furthering awareness, growing awareness, whatever. But enhancing and developing is just a nice way of saying it. That the universe will assist you in doing this. And when you start to look around you and you see everything that happens, oh, now I get it. Now I see why this thing happened. It's to help me develop and enhance my awareness. It's incredible. I mean, you start to live in a whole different world, right? So there's a moreness
Yes.
involved, but these are particular skills. And the skill that we mostly are involved in practicing with capital R reading is the skill of awareness, discernment, and understanding. Looking at things from the bigger picture, being able to extract the value, whether it's intended or not, is irrelevant. Whether Musashi intends the value that I'm getting out of it makes no difference. I still have the value. See? No matter whether he
Yes.
intended it or not. And this is what we're doing. We are extracting value, whether Musashi intended it or not. All right, please keep reading, Beena.
Yes. Examine your environment. Stand in the sun. That is, take up an attitude with the sun behind you. If the situation
Oh,
does not allow this, you must try to keep the sun on your right side. In buildings, you must stand with the entrance behind you or to your right. Make sure that your rear is unobstructed and that there is free space on your left. Your right side being occupied with your sword attitude. At night, if the enemy can be seen, keep the fire behind you and the entrance to your right, and otherwise
no, no,
take up your attitude as above. You must look down on the enemy and take up your attitude on slightly higher places. For
no, no,
example, the camisa in a house is thought of as a high place.
no.
When the fight comes, always endeavor to chase the enemy around to your left side. Chase him towards awkward places and try to keep him with his back to awkward places. When the enemy gets into an inconvenient position, do not let him look around, but con- continuously. So what is the word?
Conscientiously,
Okay,
conscientiously.
sorry. Okay, conscientiously chase him around and pin him down in houses. Chase the enemy into the thresholds, lintels, doors, verandas, pillars, and so on. Again, not letting him see his situation.
Right, right.
Always chasing.
Now let's think of this from our point of view. How do I use this? What is
Yes.
Musashi saying in conceptual language, in the language of way of impeccability, right? Which another name for it is the language of conceptionality. From this point, is saying, don't just get stuck on your immediate obvious objective, which is, oh, I'm in a sword fight, I'm fighting the guy. You in an
Mm,
environment, your sword isn't your only weapon.
mm,
Yeah, he's saying all of it
yes.
you can use. Yes. So Musashi is not just talking about particular cuts and strikes. And by the way, that's why he says the right side. When you holding a sword, and your left hand at the bottom, right hand on top, right? Same as golf clubs for if you're right-handed. Yeah. So the more
Yes.
natural movement you'll see it typically in movies, right? They'll have the sword up here on your right side, and you're striking towards the left, which is why he says the right thing. I mean, just practicality, but just we don't need to understand sword fighting. It's just helpful to know why right side or left. It's just because of the natural way it goes. But he's saying use your environment. You aren't only fighting with a sword. Right? Earlier he spoke about fighting with your body. Yes. Move your, don't just cut with your arms, cut with your body. Same with golf. You play golf with your feet and your shoulders, not with your arms. It's very counterintuitive, but same thing here. But also, you need to play with your environment, right? In golf, same thing. You need to know where the wind is and all stuff like this, right? The environment. But even more so in sword fighting, it's part of your weaponry. And even more so, not just the environment can help you, but positioning and maneuvering. So your intent is, yes, he says your intent is to cut the enemy, but you're not always looking to do that immediately and directly. Yes. So he'll make a lot of attacks, right? Maybe like really fiercely attack with knowing that it's going to be blocked, but needing to have his opponent's eyes on him so that he cannot look around. Doesn't give him that chance, right? He's just constantly striking at him, right? Knowing they're going to get blocked, but it still needs attention to block them, right? And in this, he can maneuver him, right? Again, it's that strategy of the art of leading by walking backwards. Yes. I'm attacking you, I'm attacking you, I'm attacking you. But I'll go slightly from the one side or slightly to the other. So when you're backing away from all of this, I'm steering you. Yeah. I attack slightly on the left, you're going to move out to the other side. See? To my right. Yeah. You with me, Beena? See what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
so he's steering, he's maneuvering. Very sophisticated strategy. He maneuvers him into awkward footing or against a lintel or where, up against a wall so that when oh, yeah, dang it, you end up sticking your sword tip into the wall and it gets stuck. And of course, then you're dead. So contextual awareness is very important. But of course, taking it further, and this is the part of the power of Way of Impeccability and Moreness-Project, yes, and Moreness-Culture is overview perspective, which means you're looking at things in the entirety, the context of your entire life and beyond. Not just this life,
Yes.
but potentially beyond. We don't know if there's a beyond, but we are going to make allowance for the fact that it might be. So we're going to base our strategy on being appropriate, not only in this time and instance right now, but tomorrow, the day after, the end of my life, next life, forever. Yeah? Very powerful strategy. We are taking strategy, and that's why in Way of Impeccability, it's capital S strategy, because it's taken in the totality of everything. Yeah. Very, very
Mm,
important to understand. And this is what we're doing to Musashi. We're taking his narrow application and we are looking at abstract overview, big picture applications that he doesn't necessarily mean or doesn't mean at all, but we are going to take them bigger deal, right? So in business, of course, you can't only know what your company's agenda is. It's important. You need to know what you are selling, why you are selling it, what the strengths and values of your product is. But if you don't know what the other companies are doing, right? You're selling vehicles, motor cars. Toyota is a great vehicle, but you need to know what the benefits and values of other vehicles are, right? Otherwise, you can't compete. Yes. Contextual awareness.
mm.
Yeah. Please continue, Beena.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Yeah. Make sense? Make sense?
Oh yes, oh yes, yes.
And likewise, when you're looking at strategy, if you're looking to compete directly, yes, with another company, you say, my thing's better, I have a better price. But there's other ways to do this. And you can, through paying attention, you can maneuver places where, all right, you want them to be where they're limited in their ways that they can market because they've boxed themselves into things, right? Like for instance, if they're selling a vehicle and you responding and you get them to only market this as a family vehicle. Well, now once they've got this established in the mind as a family vehicle, well, then you can kiss it goodbye in terms of sales for the youth movement, right? The 18 to 24 or whatever, because they don't want a family vehicle. That's not cool. See, so there are many ways that you can benefit indirectly from getting somebody into a place that you don't want to be from a business strategy point of view, right? So there's practical usage of this stuff. I'm just since it came up, how important Musashi is in Japan and particularly in Japanese corporate culture. It's just useful to find um, find some practical examples. Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. All right, please keep going. Sorry, I wanted to just look and see. Well, what happened? Did my live end on Instagram?
No, no, no. Just click on top. You see your
Oh, I
picture
see.
live.
Oh, okay. I see. I see. Yeah. Okay. Oh, now I've got sound here. Now it's actually playing it. Where's the sound? When I put the sound off. All right, please keep going. Sorry, I wanted to just look and see. What happened? Did my live end on Instagram? You see, Beena, it's not letting me put the sound off here. Where did I put the sound off?
Oh, okay.
I don't see where to put the sound off. Can you see, Beena?
No,
I'm
I
trying
don't
to.
know from the laptop. Sorry.
Oh. Ah, what is this here? No, that's people involved. It's a bit weird.
Okay, let's continue reading so you
Yeah.
can take it to
Yeah.
it.
Can you hear the sound from Instagram?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Let me turn that sound down on the speakers. I can. There we go. All right. Yeah. That's a bit poorly done, Instagram. It's a bit poorly done. But you see here, I see the chat, right? That's where I see the comments. So despite me asking for comments, nobody comments there. Lubna doesn't comment. Dushka doesn't comment. Nazia doesn't comment. Leave a smiley face, people. Just a smiley face. That's all I'm asking for. And I see you here.
Okay.
All right. Please keep going. Please keep going. Yeah, this always chase. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. No, this is we have already read. Okay, anyway, always chase the enemy into bad footholds, obstacles at the side, and so on, using the virtues of the place to establish predominant positions from which to fight. You must research and train diligently in this.
Yeah.
Three methods of forestall the enemy. The first
The
is
three methods to forestall the enemy. Yeah.
yes, three methods too. Forestall him by attacking. This is called can no sin to set him up. Another method is to forestall him as he attacks. This is called tie no sin to wait for the initiative. The other method is when you and the enemy attack together. This is called tie no sin to accompany him and forestall him. There are no methods of taking the lead other than these three because you can win quickly by taking the lead. It is one of the most important things in strategy. There are several things involved in taking the lead. You must make the best of the situation, see through the enemy's threat so that you grasp his strategy and defeat him. It is impossible to write about this in detail.
Yeah. Taking the lead and initiative in a corporate setting. I'll give you a very good example. Always be first in any gathering. Doesn't matter
Yes.
whether it's in the cafeteria, whether it's at the party, whether it's at a meeting. Right? Be the first one in the meeting room. Why?
Hmm.
When somebody comes into that meeting room, you greeting them, hello, however you say it, you might not say welcome to the meeting because that's not your place. But you, by already being there, you have some ownership and presence of the space. They're not walking into an empty meeting room. They're walking into a meeting room or a cafeteria or whatever, right? Playground, whatever you are. It doesn't matter, wherever you are. They're walking into your space because you're there. Just by being there, you have some ownership of the space, correct? Now,
Hmm.
they walking into a space where you've set the tone and mood. Yeah. So your tone is friendly, it's professional, it's not competitive, whatever, however you want to set it up, right? You have a large measure of controlling that. Now you start some interaction with this person based on the mood that you want because you're initiating. Yes. So you get to
Hmm.
set the tone. When the third person walks into the room, they're now walking into an interaction. If you want to have some other vibe going, you basically have to be rude to cancel this and go against this mood, this vibe that's been set, that you've set by initiating. Yes. See,
Hmm.
same thing. You're using Musashi strategy here. You are initiating a vibe, a mood, a tone, a culture, a mini culture, as it were. And it takes a lot to overcome that, right? And if people have awareness of locker rooms, you'll see this very much. You walk into a locker room and the guys are going locker room talk, and forget about changing it, right? It's already there. Yeah? It's very powerful. It's very difficult to overcome. Same thing in a meeting. If you come later and the meeting is, and I've seen this many times where before the meeting starts, before the boss comes, the employees, and they goofing around, they throwing paper darts at each other, and they just behaving like jackasses, like children. Yes, it's corporate culture, but this happens, Beena, right? I mean, it's hard to
Yes.
believe. But
Yeah.
forget you come and say, hey, let's prepare, let's be responsible. I mean, you might not want to say it in those words, but let's say this was your intent. Like, okay, I came a bit late, I couldn't help it, but I'd like to discuss a few of the. Forget about it. If they in that play goofing around mindset, you can't change that before the meeting. Yes. I mean, it's possible, but it takes a lot of energy and takes a lot of presence, and you have to already have established authority. If you're just on the same level as them in their mind, the same hierarchy level, forget about it. You're not going to change that. So being first, you can then get them to do, because then now the knuckle it comes, they start goofing off. Well, you're having a serious discussion. You're going to really look like a jackass if you start, throwing paper airplanes around, right? I mean, some of them will do that, but then you can say, hey, come on, man, we're having a serious discussion here. And you can shut it down, right? So very powerful technique, initiative. But being first doesn't mean that you only being first is not enough. You also have to take the initiative with setting the tone, setting the mood, setting the local culture, right? The environmental culture of that situation. You have to take the initiative in doing this and setting this. You have to start the conversation, open it, right? So you have to have initiative to take initiative. And it takes some gumption, it takes some courage, takes some independence of being, right? So there's a doing involved, right? You have to put yourself out there a little bit, but still incredibly valuable, incredibly valuable. All right, please continue, Beena.
Okay. Yes. The three methods. Okay. This one is we read. Okay. The first can no. Oh, there are no methods of taking the lead other than these three, because you can win quickly by taking the lead. It is one of the most important things in strategy. There are several things involved in taking the lead. You must make the best of the situation, see through the enemy's spirit so that you grasp his strategy and defeat him. It is impossible to write about this in detail.
It's
The
not
first,
impossible, Sashi. It might be impossible for you, but it's not impossible, right? So, all right. When you come in a sword fight and you take the initiative with
Mm,
spirit, right? Queuing.
yes,
You start pushing that aggression. You start pushing that confidence. You start through initiative. Oh, this guy really means it. Now you're putting the situation, your opponent, you're putting them into a defensive way. You keep that pressure and they can never recover. They on the back foot. Literally, that's where the expression on the back foot comes from. Comes literally from fighting. Yeah. When you're putting a pressure and you step back,
mm,
right? You're not quite stepping back, but you just move. You're not even taking the step. You're now on the back foot. Your weight is on the back foot. You compromise because from there you either have to literally step again, or if you can't step, well, you can't fight as well when your balance is impaired, right? So on the back foot is obviously disadvantageous. You don't want to be on the back foot, but through taking that initiative and pressing attack early on, you get, and then they can't recover, right? They're compromised and they have limited decisions, and it snowballs, and eventually it comes to a head, right? Yeah, so this is very, very powerful stuff. But likewise, in corporate culture now, if you are into superiority and hierarchy and paradigm, if you want to use this to defeat your enemies in the corporate world, right, where you got in a meeting, yes, you're working with the people, but you're also competing against them for the next promotion or whatever. You can use this. I don't recommend it. It is successful as a hierarchy technique, but in the long term, you are going to suffer because once you start to play that game, you are forced to play that game. Right. So I'm going to give another really powerful tip here. Right. So
yes,
there is. I always thought of this as horse racing. Right. The
yes,
long big track and they run, and then the finish line is on the other side across the infield, the middle there. Right. So instead of running that whole long race, which is competing in the superiority paradigm, simply walk across the middle and get to the end before them. Right? In other words, this is a sophisticated strategy to win by not playing to win, or to be successful without playing the game. You supersede the strategy. Yes? And this is Moreness culture. This is Moreness culture. I'm not going to play your hierarchy games. And as such, I put myself apart. I gain your respect. I gain your trust. I gain your confidence because you see, I'm not out to defeat you. I'm not out to win against you. Yes, I'm looking towards collaboration. And you now trust me. Anybody who's competing with me, well, I don't trust you because you'll do things that push me down in order to get you up, or pull me down if you're lower than me. But when you don't play the hierarchy game, yes, you gain that respect and trust because they see you a person of integrity. Yes, and especially when you apply way-of-impeccability. So you end up getting the benefits that people seek in the superiority paradigm, but without playing that game. Yes, because that's what they want. They want respect. They want trust. They want confidence, etc. Right? They want even admiration. Right? For me, I don't do it for admiration, but you get it. Yeah, but you can do so without playing that game. But you got to be sincere. You got to be real. You got to be genuine. You got to be honest. Right? That's difficult for people to do when they're so stuck in playing the superiority paradigm game. But in other words, I'm saying there are better ways to win than winning. Yeah, winning is a very poor way to win, because who wins when they win a war? There's no such thing
yes,
as winning a war. Everybody loses. Yes. In order to win a
yes,
war, yeah, there's expenditure, there's cost, loss of life. You've lost. That's it. Yeah, I mean, if you win a war like Sun Tzu without fighting, okay, maybe then. But even then, though, the moment you win, you make somebody else a loser. If I'm responsible for making you a loser, how is that a win for me? It's not. It can never be. See? So there is no possibility of winning in that whole strategy, because in your winning, you're making other people losers. They don't want to be losers. You're the one that's responsible. That's not cool. You see, of course, they're going to have some negativity towards you as a result. But when you don't play the game, you make them a winner and you're a winner, but you don't even think of that way. You elevate, you add, you bring moreness, right? Everybody benefits. This is the incredibleness of collaboration and moreness culture. It's about sharing. collaborating, not hierarchy. Yeah. And everybody benefits. You are much, much stronger. Yes. Like if I was like, especially in something like basketball, very, very team focused sport, right? Where playing together really matters. Other sports, it does, but not to such a great extent. Football also. But basketball is easy to see as an example. If I was a coach, I would much rather pick a team of, my team is all made up of players who are team players, rather than where most they look, you've got good, and then you got your superstar, right? They even call them marquee players, right? And you see this in the culture of the game. The players themselves, oh, he's our main guy, and they all the focus in their strategy goes towards finding an opening for this player, and of course all the other things, the other teams attacking them, right? But if you play as a team and you don't know which one is going to be doing the scoring, each one is individually, it's whoever's open. Soccer is another great example of this. You're going to be much more successful. Teams that really play as a team, that collaborative effect is much greater. But of course, in the superiority paradigm, it's so focused on glory, and that they even support this one person being the focus, and he's our star, he's our hero, and he's going to save us, or she, the one individual. It's a terrible strategy, and it's very inefficient in a bigger sense. Any military commander who does that is very soon going to have a great big loss on his thing. You need to have everybody involved, right? And the really great military strategists understood this, right? They didn't just have the one big hero, even in the sword fighting days, right? You see this where Goliath, right? This is the big hero, and he's going to save us. Of course, it doesn't work that way, because more can defeat one, even if the one is superior to any one individual. More is always greater than one. So when we understand this for collaboration, and especially when you really understand collaboration as in 1 + 1 + 1 equals more. Yeah, doesn't equal 3, equals more. That's collaboration. Very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. All right,
Yes. Okay.
let's
Okay.
continue.
Soon we will be our Instagram live video will be ended. So please just say
Yes,
hello and hi to those people,
yes, yes, yes.
and we will try to keep it
Okay.
an hour long.
Yeah, depending on the situation, as it goes. So, do we want to continue today, or do we want to end here on this where we're at and continue
As you
tomorrow?
say, as you say.
Let's see. Let's see where we go. Yeah, that's too long. So, all right, we'll stop there for today then. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll stop here at the first Ken Nosen. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd like to actually to hold down a pillow, crossing at the ford. All right. To know the times. Yeah, it's hard to say where the value lies or not, but we'll just continue tomorrow. It's a
Okay.
lot today. It's a lot today we've shared anyway. And, I like this to bring it into practical examples for corporate culture. Yes. I called it uh, personal power politics in corporate culture. You're not looking to just compete with the other companies. You're competing against your fellow employees because of personal power politics, hierarchy, in other words. But that's my name for it: personal power politics. Yes, this is a game I understand very, very well. Yes, I'm very skilled at it. Do I like it? Not one iota. Do I use those skills? No. Doesn't mean I don't understand it, but I do. Yes. But it's not a game that you can actually win at. Like I said, there's no winning a war. Yeah. You can't. The only way to truly defeat an enemy is to make them your friend. That has always been my philosophy. It doesn't mean I don't understand this personal power politics, but the underlying intent is I'd rather be your friend, I'd rather collaborate, work with you, than have us working against each other, through competition. It's a terrible system. And, the stress on people, unbelievable, unbelievable, horrible, 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 horrible. That's why burnout is such a big issue in corporate culture. Learn to collaborate, and burnout is not an issue. Yeah, becomes a joy. You look forward to going to work. It's not a war field. It's not a battleground. Yes, as it is for so many. It's sad. It's a sad business, right? And that's why you see, and in Japanese culture, alcoholism, drinking, they go and they get drunk till they pass out on the sake, right? It's a cliche. Why? Because of that stress. Same in Western culture. It's terrible. Terrible. So when you combine the corporate culture with the booze religion, you've got a mess. You've got unhappy, miserable people who are really suffering. Yeah, not good. Not good. All right. Brilliant. And that's, in the new, the whole Nobelia culture story, Biala series, the culture comes from a corporation. It's by design. Yes, there's other many advantages, but this corporation, the new Nobility Corporation, it becomes the most successful and powerful corporation even way in its beginning because they use these alternate methods. So they basically kind of show that, hey, there's a different way, and that's why they're so trusted and respected later in the agglomeration, centuries later, because they apply, and there's a real world. It's not idealistic. It actually is in actual application, very valuable, right? And they're not just from a money point of view, but they're a benefit corporation. So they're not even, they are the wealthiest and the most successful, even though that's not their prime objective, right? There's a bigger picture. They see the bigger picture. Very important to see the bigger picture. Very, very important. All right. Any comments, Beena, before we go?
This is again okay. I just love to whenever I get a chance to talk about that way of impactability, how it actually transform and completely shift the mindset of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
spirituality. That's why it is my favorite term for this is modern spirituality and a practical spirituality,
Exactly.
because it
It's
deals with
moreness spirituality. Let's call it that.
yes, and
Or
it was
nobelia spirituality. Yeah.
yes, it is also that not only that they are not negating anything, okay, they're just accepting it and making it appropriate and make, of course, getting the most maximum value out of it, which is really the practical way of dealing with things, because you cannot change your instincts. It's a big debate about that, but I'm just saying that instead of wasting and investing your energy unnecessarily or try to change things which are innate to you, make it appropriate. That's why the
Exactly.
philosophy of appropriateness is so transformative.
Yes.
So
Yes.
please, whenever you are watching, you were watching us live or recorded, we saw that, okay, we have views on our
Yes.
last live also on recorded. So please do click like and subscribe, because by doing so, you are going to train the algorithm, your algorithm, online algorithm, which is going to affect your life algorithm. So please do pay attention to that and share it, because it is valuable not only for you but the future generation also, because right now your choices are going to predict and design the future. So please do so. Thank you so much for being
Bye.
here, and
Bye.
thank you so much, Syl, for sharing.
Oh, absolute pleasure. I want to add one thing here that's very important to be aware of. What we
Yes.
are sharing is typically more than one typically would expect or even imagine. You have to set your
Yes.
mind for that. You have to learn to listen past your expectations. Listen past what you imagine. Listen past what you assume, what you think it is being spoken about, right? See?
Yes.
Because I'm talking about success in corporate culture. But when you hear that, you think, oh, well, that's competing. And you automatically start listening for ways in which to compete better. But I'm saying if you really want to be successful, don't compete. Go past that. Go beyond that. That's Moreness-Culture. He said, but how? That's the point. Your imagination first needs to even understand this. And Musashi is very much saying this in a very specific way. And get rid of how you think you should fight. He doesn't use that word should, but he should use that word should. Right? In this, right? As a negative, right? Because that's what he encounters with his students. You've got to do it this way. You've got to do it this way. I mean, just the two hands on the sword. He mentioned this, right? This is the traditional way, the holy way, the mystical magic. And he said, no, put one hand in the sword, right? So he's breaking that tradition, and that's very powerful. And the tradition is to compete, but there are better ways than hierarchy and competition. There are better ways. Yes. African dogs.
Yes.
Yeah. African wild dogs. Most successful hunters in Africa. Why? Because they collaborate. Yeah. They've understood collaboration really excellently. Yeah. I mean, they don't just collaborate in the hunt, which you could say, yes, the lions also collaborate in the hunt, but they don't collaborate when it comes to eating the food. Yes. Yeah. I mean, those African wild dogs that they will have babysitters that stay behind with the young. And from the kill, they'll take food for those babysitters. Think about that. Yes. Think about that. Yeah. Lions, you're on your own. Tough luck. You have cubs, you're on your own. Fend for yourself. Lion culture is horrible. Horrible. Everybody wants to be a lion. Not me. Thank you very much. Nope, 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 nope. Terrible culture to live in. To be a lion from an ego point of view, oh, look at me, I'm king of the jungle. You're actually not. But, you know, the elephants are, and elephants are a matriarchal society. So really, it's the queen of the jungle is the matriarch of the elephants. Think about that also. Yeah. Yeah. And that's
Yes.
something. Anyway, I just like
Yes.
non-obvious points. But when you realize how horrible lion culture is, and same with hyena, and you might say, well, it's male. Well, hyena culture, same thing, except that in a hyena culture, the females are the dominant ones. They're the bigger ones, and the males are the ones that are lying on their back and sucking up to the females and all this, right? So it's just the inverse. Yeah. So
Mm.
male culture, I mean, it's a lion culture, hyena culture, both horrible for pretty much everybody. Even if you're the king of the lions, everybody's looking to knock you off your perch. You always got to be defending. You always got to be watching your back. You're constantly in fights. It's miserable, miserable,
Mm.
miserable, miserable. Now, see, reality versus idea. That's that's the point that Musashi is making too. And I didn't say it in those ways. I'm glad I persisted here because it was kind of bothering me. Reality versus idea. Yes, he gets those students and they come in with this idea of how to do instead of the fingers, the hands, the arms, whatever. They have all these ideas, should in other words, right? But that's
Mm.
not the reality. The reality is a lot more than what you think it is. Yeah, there's more to it. Right? Learn to think bigger, in other words. Contextual awareness. All right. On that note, we'll end it. Any comments there, Beena, before I go?
No, thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing. And now we are
Pleasure.
good
Pleasure.
for today's live. See you guys tomorrow with more
Yeah.
of Musashi. So,
Yeah.
okay. Bye for
All right.
now.
All right. Bye bye, everybody. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye, Beena. See you soon. See you soon. Bye bye.
Yes.